following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is The Producers, broadcasting live from the Star in Frisco and featuring all the fellows who produce your favorite Dallas Cowboys podcasts. And now, your hosts, Kent Garrison,
Taco,
William Boykins,
hey, what you know about the Hot Boys?
Douglas Barraclough,
He smashed his head on the toilet.
and Shannon Gross.
Hurry up, Shannon!
Nice.
Well, this is something new, and I'm not real sure if anyone can hear me because I can't hear myself.
I hear
So
you.
hopefully,
Yeah, we hear you, Shannon.
you do. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's this head cold that I'm fighting through since I'm double fisting iced teas and probably going to make really good use of the. I honestly can't hear myself. I don't know what's happening.
You are fine. Just
Okay, I'll just power through it.
yeah.
Did you hear the open?
I heard Beam screaming in my ear, "Hello, oh yeah." There we go.
There.
I don't know what button you
IFE
pushed.
must have been on. There we
All
go.
right, there we go.
Cool.
All right. So I'm double fisting teas, and I'm going to make good use of the cough button and probably the Lysol can after we get off the air. But this is something new. We're going to try it, see what happens. We are live, I guess, here at the Star in Frisco with all the people that you usually hear behind the scenes, behind that wall. So we thought it'd be really cool to bring them on this side of the wall and talk a little bit about you guys and what you do, and then talk a little bit about some football stuff. Some big football news just came down. Kellen Moore, the new OC of the Dallas Cowboys. Rumors been out there for a while. We'll get into that in a little bit, but it's now official. And then we'll go around the room and make intros here in a second. But keeping us on the air today is Chris Beam behind the wall producing. How's it going, Chris?
Give us a
Talk about
an applause drop. We'll give us an applause.
All right, Chris. Yeah. So let's go around the room. First, William Boykins to my left. What's up, William? Tell everybody what you do.
What's up, guys? Well, I'm the digital media producer and the webmaster for all the Cowboy properties. So pretty much like the team site, cheerleader site, the stadium, Star Frisco, and a whole bunch of other things right now. But that's pretty much the bulk of my job, is putting the content on, kind of, making sure the stories are there, videos there, photo galleries, game day. We do the whole game day central pages,
How long have you been with the Cowboys?
This is just finished my second season and excited for the third. So
Very cool. And to his left, Douglas Barraclough. Hello, Douglas. How are you?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm great, man. How long have you been with the company, and what exactly do you do?
Been with the company 12 years. Been with the radio network 27 years. And I'm in charge of creative and commercial sound production. So I produce the opens, the bumpers you hear on these podcasts. I produce radio spots for the play-by-play broadcast on the radio network with Brad and Babe. I sound design stuff for the website, for the TV department, for the stadium. Do some sound design mastering for Kent now and then when he produces his badass videos. So stuff like that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And to your left and to my right is Kent Garrison. How are you, Kent?
I'm wonderful, Shannon. How are you?
Oh, there goes his radio voice. All right. I like it. Eat that microphone.
I just had some chips before coming on air. That's a great thing to do when you're about to speak into a microphone, I'm sure.
How long have you been with the organization, and kind of what's your day-to-day?
Yeah, I've been just finished my 6th season. David Hellman and I came in, I think, on the same day.
Wow, 6 years?
Around.
That was a good day.
It was the 2013 draft. It was the Travis Frederick draft where everybody was kind of confused and bewildered. It was a very fun first day, but I've done almost every podcast since then, producing, running the board, doing all the graphics, getting these things recorded, put on the website and stuff. And aside from that, doing a lot of web mastering, getting articles posted back in the day, photo galleries, kind of the stuff William has taken over in the past few years. Started doing that, and a lot of video work on the side too. Things that you might see at the games, on the big board, things that you might see on social media, things that you might see on a show or on Cover 4 or something like that. So kind of got my hands dipped in a lot of different areas, but Yeah, I would say producer is probably my main title. It kind of covers everything, right?
Oh, okay. And being behind the wall there, how long have you been with the company, and what's kind of your day-to-day?
45 years.
Oh, wow.
Just about. It feels like
Close.
Yeah.
I'm in I just finished my 20th season.
Wow.
1999 was my first season. So
You're only 27. You started working here when you were 7 years old?
yeah.
that's a lot
I
of
look
years.
27. That's what it is. I'm like Shannon.
Show yourself on the
age.
camera there. You've got a camera
I
in there.
do.
She's like, which button is it?
They showed it to me, but I'm not really. Let's see. No, I can't figure it out.
Don't worry about
Call
it.
nine.
You get to see his beautiful face.
What's your day-to-day?
Day to day, okay. I produce Cowboys Special Edition, which has been Jerry Jones' show for many years. It has transitioned over to Stephen Jones, the Chief Operating Officer of the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
So Nick,
Emmy award-winning show.
it has won an Emmy. Yes, we won that 3 years ago when we kind of transitioned. It was myself and Steve Dennis, who is now on ESPN Radio locally here in Dallas. So that was a good moment for us.
Have you ever been to Jerry's house?
I was at Jerry's house last week, actually.
Humble brag. Humble brag.
And Shannon, you know that.
Oh,
I was at Jerry's house last week. Yes, we had to do a shoot. Actually, here's a funny story. My first day on the job was at Jerry's house.
40 years ago?
Wow.
20.
His current house, same house?
1999. It was me and John Chang, the late John Chang. He was a director of broadcasting at the time. And I had to go shoot. He said, bring a suit, and I'll bring the camera, and meet me at the Valley Ranch, and we're going to head over and shoot this party. I didn't realize the first day on the job I'd be walking into Jerry's house, and the first person I met walking in the door was Jerry Jones, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's real.
It's as real as it gets.
Well, you obviously didn't screw anything up because you're
Did
still
not.
here. So
Did not.
All right, now that we've gotten to know everybody, let's just throw some topics out there and just you guys tell me what you think. And we don't. There's no order or anything. Just tell me what do you guys think about this season? Good, bad, ugly, indifferent. How do you? I personally, going from 3-5 to where they ended up, I think you could not have asked for more. I mean, obviously you could. We could be playing this weekend and we would all be in Atlanta, but the disaster that it looked like it was about to be, and you were about to fire your entire coaching staff, and you might be looking for a new quarterback, and making mass changes. Hell, it might have even trickled down to us. Who knows? Hope not. No. But I mean, I think it was a good success, and I think it spoke to what Garrett is, like him or not, as a head coach. Same message, same consistency. Yes. I think that's why Jerry's kept him around, is because he likes the same consistent message. And even when times looked really bad, he was the same guy at work. He spoke to us the same way when he'd pass our offices. I'm sure the players appreciate that. I think overall it was a pretty big success. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. The thing I take away the most from the year is the consistency of the message. And that's what you spoke on, but it's evident. I mean, I'm in the locker room after the games. I'm in the locker room through the week. The players preach his message. We hear the message. He walks by, same guy when they were losing as they were on the 9-game winning streak. And I think a lot can be said for that. I think the biggest shocker for me was the fact that the coaching staff and organization showed that they could kind of go away from their plan. They were really consistent and adamant about the receiver by committee, and we're going to try this, and we're going to ride it out. And when things kind of weren't working all the way, they really said, you know what, let's just put this eggs in a basket. Let's go make this trade, get Cooper. You saw dynamic change, and I thought that spoke volumes. Everyone's talking about, you can't necessarily change within, but they changed their philosophy within, and we saw the changes of it. Offense got back rolling a little bit, and that's one of the biggest things for me.
Yeah, it's a big credit to the owner.
For sure.
And the ownership staff with Steven and Will, and it's a great point because I didn't think that they would do that until after the season. They would ride out the decisions they made, but they adjusted on the fly. I agree. So
yeah. No, there, as we know, there have been years in the recent past where if Travis Frederick had gone down in the preseason, you would never have absorbed that if
Sean Lee.
Forget
how to play defense.
Yeah. Sean Lee and Travis Frederick, you couldn't have gotten through that. And I remember in the early part of the season when things weren't going well, And Jason Garrett would be in front of the media after a loss, and he would break down the reasons why he thought things didn't come together. And he talked about the execution. He said there were things that could be fixed, this, that, the other. And at the time, listening to it, I was like, that didn't give me hope. Mm-hmm. It sounded like something you just say to get through a press conference after a loss.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, I don't think it was ridiculous to say those things. They were working to correct things that mattered. And I think it was more than just getting Amari Cooper and changing the offensive line coach. Mm-hmm. I think they fixed many things that made the run at the end of the season possible. Mm-hmm. And I think the team, based on how they started and what they were going up against, I think they overachieved. To play if you remember on Hanging with the Boys, after the Chiefs and the Rams played, Nate Newton was depressed. He was just like, there's no way the Cowboys could even hang with either of those teams. Mm-hmm. And to play the Rams the way they did at L.A., even though it was a somewhat friendly environment, there were Cowboys fans.
That was a home.
That was way closer than you'd have thought that game could have been.
Oh yeah, back
after
early
the
in the
Kansas
season.
City Rams game. So,
man, it's just with this team. Shannon, you've been here for a long time. Beam, Douglas, you can attest to this. There's just never short of storylines, drama in a season.
It's a soap opera.
It's amazing.
And even this week, when I think Jerry one day
Perfect
ago,
example of today.
Yes,
we were supposed to go on the air at 1:00.
Yes.
And they say, guys, they just hired Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator. We're going to do an impromptu podcast out of nowhere.
The day after Jerry
push you
said
guys back
on the fan, I don't want to talk about coaching changes during Super Bowl week. And then the next day you know what? It's Thursday of Super Bowl week. Let's just do it. You're right. Always.
Just perfect example of kind of what we do here and how the hours can be crazy, how, we're up here early in the morning, late at night on game days, on non-game days. It's end of January right now when we're up here doing tons of different pieces of content. But just from the season, man, there was a point, I think it was after the Titans game, we were doing our post-game show here with Broadus and Nate. And, go back and watch that one. Douglas mentioned post-game show, but go back and watch Nate Newton on that post-game show and Broadus. There was a point where they could have waved the white flag in this season and said, you know what, we're not any good. Let's just ride this thing out, not make any changes, get a great draft pick next year, reset, and blow the whole thing up and keep our core pieces in place, have cap space, whatever. But I think it was very admirable for them to go out and actually commit to winning this year, trying to make the playoffs, winning the division. They saw basically what was happening with the other teams in the division. They thought there was a chance there if they get a couple other pieces, and they were right. They could have been wrong. They could have made those changes and been wrong, and then there's a whole nother situation. But they made the right moves at the right time, shows commitment by everybody. And Garrett, what got him the job in the first place was him being able to pull them out of that hole in 2010, I believe, right, when Wade Phillips,
when he was
that whole thing messed up. He pulled them out of a hole and got them winning again, and he's done that over the years. They'll lose, and then he'll get them winning again on a streak, So I think big win for this season, for them to win a playoff game, make the playoffs, everything. I did not see this coming after that Titans game. I thought the season was over at that point, if I'm being honest.
Don't disagree. So that being said, everyone pretty much thinks this was a positive season, at least the outcome.
Yeah.
What is Douglas, we'll start with you. What is your expectation now that they pulled themselves out of the hole? They got on a roll. They got Amari Cooper that's really been producing. Dak looked like a different quarterback the last 2 or 3 games of the season heading into the playoffs. He looked like the Dak of 13-3. Mm-hmm. What is success next year? What do they need to do to be deemed a successful year next year?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot depends on the health of Travis Frederick, because how we've been on this roller coaster in the NFC East for 10 seasons, where whoever wins it does not win it the next year. Sometimes doesn't even make the playoffs the next season. And once, with 2016, once Dak and Zeke and the offensive line were together, I kind of assumed that this was a playoff caliber team no matter what. Even if they weren't a Super Bowl contender, just with Zeke and the offensive line and Dak with the way he protects the ball, you could always get to the playoffs with that. And with Frederick being an unknowable at this moment, I mean, I know we've heard lots of good news about where he could be in time for next season. That's the biggest thing. I think they're going to be a playoff team if he's healthy and the offensive line is okay. But I do think they still need to upgrade the talent if they're going to be be able to beat where the Kansas City Chiefs go next year and where the Rams develop next year.
Do you think if they make it to the same round in the playoffs and then lose, it's still a successful year next year? Do they need to get to the NFC Championship?
I always think it depends on how that narrative plays out. Yeah. I mean, if you run smack into a great team and it's obvious to you, the fan base, that that's just a great team. I mean, think about when the Green Bay Packers ran into us in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. Do you think you weren't going to fire coaches because you lost to the Cowboys of the 90s? So if that's what the Cowboys run into next season, I don't, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But, since I've been here, in the last 12 years, the only time I thought the Cowboys had one of the top two teams in the entire league was the 13-3 year with Romo and T.O.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think
it was
that
2007.
2007. Yeah. That was the one year that I was most disappointed.
Yeah.
We've had really good years, but I never thought
you were a powerhouse.
For sure, we were one
beat.
of the elites.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with how do you get back to that point next year. If you have another slow start and you have another, patchy part in the season and you still get there, is it a success? Probably not. You probably push and, just show that you are what you are. But if they run through the league again next year and you kind of put together, stack up some nice runs and stuff like that, you win the playoff game, you get to the next round. I mean, I think that would be considered a success. I mean, I would obviously like to see him go a little further. I think the potential's there if you do a couple things right. I think the defense is still nice and young and has a lot of good parts. I think a lot can be fixed and changed to upgrade some certain spots. And, the offense obviously still has a lot of room to grow. We'll get the offensive line hopefully put back together a little better and, Gallup will develop. Hopefully we can figure out tight end position a little bit, get some depth there, some competition there. But, yeah, I think that's like the key to it.
I almost enjoyed this year more than I did 13-3 2 years ago. That was fun because of Zeke and Dak were setting all those rookie records. 13-3 with Romo in 2007 was fun just because you were mowing through people. But I almost enjoyed this year more because of the storylines that developed, the young guys that developed. They started. No one gave them a chance after they were 3-5. It was like, oh my God, they're terrible.
It was found
and they
money.
came back. Yeah,
backs against the wall.
Yeah, it was almost better for me to watch this year than it was in years past. What do you think success is next year?
I think you got to at least get to where you got this year. And again, it does. Douglas is right. It depends on the circumstances. If you lose Dak, you lose Zeke, something big happens. You don't sign one of those guys. Someone holds out. There's so many things that can happen, especially this offseason. Speaking of Dak and Garrett, extending those guys are both on 1-year deals next year, and Dak flames out and Garrett flames out. You're talking an entirely different scenario, but still you got core guys in place, the Zekes, hopefully DeMarcus Lawrence is still here at that point. But I think you do. I think you got to get back to at least where you got this year. And you got to show improvement overall. I think at the end of the day, they got to sit down and say, are we better this year than we were last year? And if not, then you got to make changes. And depending on what those changes are, I think they've made the right changes every year. They have made changes every year. They've seen where they need to improve, and they've made changes. Last year, I think, was one of their best years since I've been here in terms of finding holes and making changes. Chris Richard and Sanjay Lal coming in were really good changes, not the biggest changes. And Ben Bloom, believe it or not, was a nice change, and those linebackers were way better than anyone ever expected.
I think Ben
two
Bloom's
Pro Bowlers.
Enthusiasm.
Maybe Sean Lee would have been a Pro Bowler had he been healthy the whole year, but very unexpected how those guys played, and so you just never know. But yeah,
and even changes with Mark Colombo, getting rid of the O-line coach and promoting him.
Yeah, they had the guts to do that, and we talked about some of the moves in Amari and thing, but Colombo, who would have thought he would be what he is, and could be a really good head coach someday. We'll see.
I really like Mark's intensity too, man.
Yeah, he's got all the qualities you want in that position, man. People respect him. He's got experience. He's got deep ties in the organization. So I think there's a lot of question marks for next year, but this year was a total roller coaster. I think it feels a little bit like the next year's champions thing from the 70s. Was it the 70s?
But 60s into the 70s.
60s into the 70s of the seeds are there. We know they're going to get there eventually. I really feel like this team, they gained their identity this year.
Yeah.
And that was the main thing with the Hot Boys and all the things we were able to do with this team. All the little phrases that they had throughout the year. Next year, I think that's going to pay dividends. They're going to really build on the Hot Boys and build on the chemistry with Amari. I think good days are ahead. It's a bright future. Normally we lose in the playoffs and it's everybody's pissed off and you got to change everything. But I don't think any Cowboys fans feel like that.
No.
I think everyone's kind of stoked, like, oh, we got all these great young players and we're only going to get better with the draft. And
usually we're getting roasted on social media.
They're still kind of bummed about the coaching, kind of staying on that track. But, and I run all the Facebook Lives, Periscopes. So I see all the comments coming in, basically. And they're coming in rapidly during press conferences, during post-game shows and things. And it's so funny to see how the comments change during games, after wins, after loss. It's get rid of this guy, and then they get rid of that guy, and then they change. Oh, get rid of this guy now. They always just change. They always want to get rid of somebody.
Yeah.
It just changes who they want to get rid of. So I wonder who it's going to be now that they got rid of Linehan and Kellen Moore.
Well, it's going to be Kellen Moore. Unless they go out scoring 40 points a game, it's going to be like,
They're not going to have anybody to blame anymore because they're going to have made the right changes.
They couldn't even score points with him in the Pro Bowl. Come on, come on.
But it's been a roller coaster year, but nothing short of. I would say I was definitely impressed and, let's say, shocked that 2 weeks into January I was still doing videos.
Yeah.
It's definitely something you don't get every day.
One of the things you mentioned about the new core of this team is that the young players seem to be very sturdy. They don't have health issues. I mean, Romo got injured a lot. Dez got injured a lot. DeMarco Murray, when he was our bell cow, he got injured a lot. The key guys on this team, Dak seems indestructible. Zeke, and I'm knock on every piece of wood.
Make sure you knock on the outside part, not the inside. That's metal.
Sean Lee has been injury prone. Well, so many guys you've depended on the last 5 or 6 years haven't been there at key moments. And that's one thing that you got to be optimistic about is this core young group seems
durable.
Yeah, durable, well built to keep going for a while.
Yeah. Are we set up to take breaks or no?
We can.
Of course.
Are you required to? That's
Douglas.
Douglas.
I don't know if they sold the show yet.
This is a one-off show.
Let's do one
you want
break.
to take a break?
Let's do one break, not two. So we're midway through anyway, right?
I was just going to use this as, hey, before we go to break, which we might not take a break, so we may or may not. Because I want to mix this up. I want to get football stuff in here, but I also want to get to know you guys. I actually know you guys, but let the listeners get to know you guys. What's your favorite part of your job? And anybody can jump in there.
Wow.
And I'm also going to ask you what your favorite project is that you've worked on. So put some thought into that.
Okay.
Kent, what's the favorite thing that you do?
My job.
Yeah. What do you get the most enjoyment out of?
Oh man, this year it's really been doing the live events, doing the live post-game shows, pre-game shows, going live and seeing the reaction, like I mentioned earlier, of the fans and interaction has been awesome. Something that's we've innovated in as a department and as a team over the past few years, integrating that with the connected TV and all the ways that the fans have interacted. So that's been really cool. I still enjoy doing narrative stuff, storytelling type videos, player stories or documentary type work. So that's probably when I feel the best is when I finish something like that I've been working on for a few weeks or a few months or something like that. But yeah, every day it's kind of a different story here. Yeah. It's never
every phase of the year.
Every phase of every day is just kind of a. I compare. I came from the music business, so I compare it to that in a certain way, where it's just such a ride. You're just on this ride of whatever whatever album you're promoting or whatever tour you're on, you're just riding this thing, and you can get off the train whatever point you're in, but the train's going to keep on going whether you're here or not. And the NFL is just such a machine, and it's such a grind for everybody involved. Players, staff, the people that work at the Star, the people that are working reception. Everybody feels it here. When you win and lose, you feel it.
Oh, you feel it in the
energy,
building.
like the literal air in the building is like different. It's hard to explain it, but working here, it's a different kind of vibe. But yeah, man, I really have enjoyed being able to do the live stuff after the games and seeing when we won against the Saints this year. It was lit. It was just bonkers.
Yeah, I was gonna use
everyone was just jumping out of their chairs. Even in the studio as we're producing it, we were jumping out of our chairs. But Cowboys Nation was lit. It was good.
Yeah. What about you, William?
Yeah, it's a lot of good things. We got tons of perks and benefits, working here, all the things that we're afforded, opportunities and things like that. But nothing beats game day for me. I like everything about the game day experience. I love when we go on the plane. I like seeing everyone dressed up in their suits and stuff, and we all get on there and everyone's nice and neat, and I really appreciate that. But game day, when I get to go down there, I typically go on the field at the end of the games to shoot 2 segments. We do the first word and stuff like that, and just the atmosphere when you're on the field and the fans are rowdy. He talked about the Saint game. The Saint game was one of my favorite moments this year. On that field, and just the buzz and the excitement and stuff like that. I mean, it's unreal. And then I'm fortunate enough to get to go to the locker room afterward. We do interviews with Jerry and the players and stuff like that, and the vibe in there and the energy coming from there after wins. It's great. Obviously it's terrible when they lose, but the vibe after a win, it's second to none. I mean, it's just so exciting, and to ride that ride this year for 9 games it was. I mean, that was awesome. My first year we didn't do a lot of winning. So I didn't have a lot of those moments, We had all the drama with, the court stuff and, injuries in and out and Dez and Orlando and stuff like that. But this year to get to ride the wave and just get to be fun, it was awesome. It's hard to beat that.
Bet you, Doug?
Yeah. I guess I have 2 things that are both.
You only get one.
I only get one?
No, I'm kidding.
Well,
you're on this side of the wall. You get 2.
Okay. So there are 2 things that you get a buzz from. You get a creative buzz when
More than 2.
I'll take your word for it. A
lot more than 2. I just got back from Mexico.
There you go.
Yeah.
When I do a creative audio production and you spend several hours on it and you finally get it the way you think it ought to sound, and you sit back in your chair, you turn up the speakers and you just let it hit you. I buzz. I'm just buzzing from the creative experience all the way home, So that's one thing. And that happens, that's something that's part of the gig. You do a lot of productions, and they have varying levels of satisfaction and importance. But that sort of buzz keeps you going. And then the other thing
the real buzz is when Jameson sends him a case of Irish whiskey for cutting those spots.
When our guy Paul, when he brings us authentic Scottish
we're not getting
whiskey.
a piece of that, man.
Yeah.
Gotta break
But the other thing is the live show, hanging with the boys. At the end of one of those shows, when you, Nate, and Kurt have just had infectious laughter, and you know how this gets. The callers are engaged. At the end of one of those shows, there's a buzz too, and that before I got here, I produced a lot of sports talk, and so when you get to the end of a show that you just know went really well, you walk out of it and you buzz for a while.
Yeah,
and those are the 2, and those can happen any day of the week. Sometimes both of those happen in the same day, and that's one of the great things.
Speaking of, if anyone wants to call us. 888-855-2297. I can't believe I remembered that after Mexico. 888-855.
I want to just go further details into that trip.
2297.
That on Hanging with the Boys.
I was out of commission all day yesterday, and pretty much I'm still lightheaded. I don't know what's going on. I got some kind of
you okay?
Mexican flu or something. I don't know.
Does not stay in Mexico apparently.
Yeah.
Well, Shannon, you flew in 11 p.m. Sunday night?
Yes.
And you were here at your normal time Monday morning. And I remember just being at lunch with you, and you were in a daze.
I just thought it was dehydration and lack of sleep, and then yesterday yesterday it like came down on me and was like, this is not just dehydration and lack
You
of
had
sleep.
those glazed Homer Simpson eyes.
I was in bad shape. If I would not have felt better this morning, I would not be here. I really just came in here for you guys.
Oh,
I really did.
have to do that.
Man.
I really did.
You're so nice.
For us to pull this off, we definitely needed Shannon.
For sure, no doubt.
You could. As many of these as you do, you guys could have done this totally better.
This is better.
Yeah.
Much better.
All right. Who's your favorite player this season and why?
On the field or off?
I think maybe you could do both. I think you could pick
You
both
know what?
for
Mine's
different
the
reasons.
same answer. Mine's
Okay.
DeMarcus Lawrence.
All right.
Off the field, on the field. The dude's a beast on the field. Don't have to say that. They're needing to keep him around for those reasons, but for our reasons, I hope they keep him around. Super fun, super energetic. Really played into the Hot Boys branding thing that we really played off on social media and on the web and on merchandising and everything. But really nice guy, genuine, locker room guy, gets along with everybody. You can tell he's a leader in the locker room. He's really matured over his career. I think we drafted him my second year here, so to see him go in that Detroit playoff game, who is this guy? Made that play at the end to being like, oh, we know who this guy is. Where's it's been awesome, and he's just probably has the most to say of anybody. He does not care.
Yeah.
You kind of need those guys to give us sound bites and things that we can work with, and he's definitely the guy that consistently, day after day, gives us stuff to work with.
And he really just stepped into that role really this year. Like, he's always been a good guy. He's always been, but he's kind of been quiet, hadn't had a lot to say, and this year he really became like the locker room guy.
Was he captain on defense? No.
I don't
He will
think he's
be.
the captain yet.
No.
Sean Lee,
Sean
probably,
Lee.
right?
Yeah. But he was really the guy that didn't say a whole lot in the locker room.
Captain.
Crawford.
Yeah.
Okay, that
yeah.
makes more sense.
And this year he just kind of stepped up, and he was the guy that said, hey, we need to go hit an MFer in the mouth. And that's the game they stepped up, and then the defense really started clicking. So I totally agree with that. Who's your favorite guy, Douglas?
Man, it's either Travis or Dak, and probably Dak. He's recorded a bunch of commercial spots in my studio, and a lot of when you've been at covering sports for many years, you know that the public persona
You never want to meet your idols.
isn't exactly.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily who that person is, and really working here, a lot of the guys have been pretty cool no matter what. But he comes in my studio and he'll be voicing a script, and he'll do something with it that's totally wrong on purpose just to make sure I'm listening. So he does stuff like that. He's just a really good guy. He's the authentic deal.
He's from North Louisiana. What do you expect? man?
Yeah. And as you couldn't ask for a better face of the franchise. I mean, DeMarcus Ware was like that.
Yeah. He's one of the I won't say the few, but he's one of the guys that lives up to the expectation that I think he's this, and then he really is better than what you think.
Yes,
Dak
absolutely.
is everything, 100% saying
talk
this from
about
the
it
bottom
in the
of
documentary.
everything you want him to be in a starting person to lead your franchise. 100%.
Yes.
Because you followed him to Starkville, right?
yeah,
2
yeah.
years ago?
That's a story. I'll give you the short story. So we heard that Dak was going to return to his college, Mississippi State, for the first time since he had broken out his rookie year, won Rookie of the Year, all this stuff. Hadn't even been back. And it was going to be during the spring game for Mississippi State football, but they had a baseball game before it. So we caught wind of that. Taylor Stern, David Hellman, and Derek organized the trip for us to go out there. They said, hey, come along. We might be able to film some stuff because the plan was for Dave to do an article, a long-form article about his homecoming, interview some people. We show up there. Dak didn't know we were going, and he was kind of confused, like,
Oh,
what?
hi guys.
Hey, guy, like
to see
that. And it was very like, oh no, we didn't. We felt awkward about it, but let me just say, he could not have been cooler about it. Welcomed us in, invited us places, sat down when we got back for the documentary and released it and promoted it, and was so cool. So just from a person, leader, on the field, off the field, he's everything that you would want a leader, person, quarterback to be. So I think he's going to be here for a long, long time, and I want him to. He's great. You're right. He's great to work.
You don't have to worry about him.
No,
If
you can get Dak, you're good for any kind of thing we're doing. So
yeah.
Yep. What about you, William?
I mean, I could echo what Kent said because DeMarcus is obviously my guy, and he's a beast on the field, and he's phenomenal in the locker room and to work with. I mean, I have to go in there and talk to these players, win, lose, and he's always good to me. He always makes time to make sure we get something, and so I appreciate him for that. But just to talk about somebody different, I'll say Leighton, both on and off the field. For me, like last year was my first year, so like this is my first time now, kind of comfortable in my role. And seeing him from day one, from when he came in here on this tour and how he's changed and evolved and matured into a player that a lot of people had a lot of question marks about, as far as like what kind of player he could be and, what kind of person and stuff like that coming from the 7-on-7 football and stuff like that.
Because a lot of people weren't happy with that pick
for sure.
at all.
And you could tell. I mean, I talked to him and he definitely had expressed, some concern or some, some feeling about it. I won't say concern. But, to see him now to get to all the way to the point where I saw him and his family. I mean, we flew on the plane to Pro Bowl with his parents sat in the row right across from me. To see like all the way from that to that moment there, I mean, it's very impressive to see that, type of player mature on the field. And, obviously now to the point where I think sky's the limit for him. I mean, he can definitely be a leader on that defense with DeMarcus and stuff like that going forward. So I'm excited about that. And he never says no. Now, granted, he's a rookie, so he really can't say no. But,
They change. They all change.
This year,
That's
I mean,
true.
if we needed something, Leighton, hey, he would do it. He'd always make time for us. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah. And we take advantage of rookies because we know they will change, but when they're a rookie,
they don't know any better.
They don't know any better,
Yeah.
so we take advantage of them because most of them the very next year they go to, I don't really want to do that, or I can't.
Tomorrow,
or,
that's
yeah.
what you get. I'll go tomorrow.
I got to go lift.
I
gotta
gotta
lift,
watch
yeah.
some film.
I gotta get treatment.
I got a massage.
Treatment.
Yeah,
That
treatment.
callus develops quickly.
Got to go
Yeah.
lift. That's a good one.
That's a
Yeah.
good
They
one.
use that.
I get that.
Never fall for that one.
I get that a lot. I got to go lift. And then you
that
want
was a classic Dez one.
You want-
Like, Dez, how much are you lifting, Dez? You're a receiver. You're not even pushing anybody.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Got to get those squats.
Love Dez.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. How did you guys get here? I think that's something people would want to know.
yeah.
Everyone always asks, how did you get in the business? How I want to work for a pro team. How did you guys, because everybody here has been here for a little while. William's probably the least tenured person, but you've been here for a couple of years. So how did you guys get to where you're at on this kind of journey? Douglas, you're the oldest.
Okay.
You go
Yeah,
first.
I'll say.
Well, yeah, and I've heard you say this on the air before. You talked about how when you get in an organization, you're just willing to do anything and everything to keep your foot in the door. So, as opposed to how I got working for the Cowboys, when I first started working for the Cowboys radio network, I was still a student down at UT Austin, and I had interned for the flagship radio station that the summer after my sophomore year, I think, or maybe after my freshman year. And I told them, I'll do anything to work game days. I'll drive up from Austin. And so that's what they said, okay. And so that's what I ended up doing. I was on the road 6 hours every Sunday from my sophomore, junior, senior year in college. And, my GPA probably wasn't as high as it could have been after that. But
much they
yeah,
paying you?
that's how I got in is you just kind of do anything that's asked of you. And eventually I got here because Jerry Jones brought the radio network in-house, and I had several people, I guess putting in a good word for me. I had already been in touch with Scott Purcell, probably in the 6 months prior to the radio rights coming in-house. He would email me needing a highlight, a radio highlight or something. And so, basically I'd been a radio network guy from 92 to 2005.
Smooth jazz.
And when it came in-house, the Cowboys needed somebody to produce commercial spots. And so I came in and did it.
Did you work for free? When you,
I never, that was
when you drove up all those times.
no.
Like an internship back in the day, where it's like
when I
we're
first
not gonna pay you.
interned at Channel 11, when it was Gaylord Broadcasting and it wasn't CBS, they did not pay me. But and I wasn't paid for my internship at the flagship radio station KVIL that summer. But when I started working as doing production on game days, they paid me. And it was like, I don't know, this was like 1992. Yeah, so my first year was the first Super Bowl year of the 90s, so that was fun too. And I think they paid me, I don't know, $10 an hour, $15 an hour, which back in 1992,
That's big money.
That was plenty to cover gas.
Minimum wage was like $5.25
I know.
back, or
I know.
$3.75.
I was just like, wow, okay. Radio business hadn't gotten frugal at that point. No. So it's they're probably still paying, they may not be paying $10 an hour in 2019. I don't know.
Yeah. What about you, William? How'd you get here?
So my road's a little bit different. I had worked for a number of 3 and 4 letter networks before we got here. And honestly, working at those networks, I covered sports, obviously, and I'm just doing a lot of stuff for teams I didn't really care about. So
By 4-letter networks, did you ever work for the Ocho?
No.
Okay. All right.
These are major sport networks.
Okay. All right.
I just don't want to get in trouble and say the wrong thing.
Get on the mic. There you go.
There we go.
You don't work there anymore. It's cool.
So working for them, you cut a lot of stuff that you necessarily you're not a fan of the content all the time. You get assignments, you do things you have to do. And I would just always like cut my own like hypes and stuff for Cowboys. I was a Cowboy fan growing up, been a Cowboy fan my whole life. And I just did it for like personal enjoyment. I finished my days. I had access to all the videos and stuff like that. So it was easier than most. And I just would cut hypes. And so I put them on the internet. I put them on, Twitter and Facebook.
Guys I've been trying to take down for the past.
Yeah.
I was one of those guys.
Exactly. Shannon knows too.
I know. We've had to talk.
YouTube. Let's just say
YouTube pirate.
There's a lot.
I'm one of those guys. I'm one of the guys that you want to be that actually made it work. But
a lot of people making Cowboys videos in their own time, which is pretty awesome.
Yes.
People do for free in their own time what we do for a job.
I definitely did it for free, and I will put in hours well into the night just to do it.
It only makes Kent really mad when you use his stuff and pass it off as your own.
Oh, yeah. No.
He's okay with the other kind of hype videos.
I'm okay with
I'm taking raw cuts. We taking melts.
I'm okay with taking melts and making your own thing, but I'm not cool with let's download hype video from DallasCowboys.com and just
put your own branding
to YouTube and put your watermark on it.
Yeah, that's
I'm
whack.
not cool with that.
That's whack.
That is.
I'm not gonna lie.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, make your own stuff. Me and Kent can talk about
funny.
that. We'll
Well, I'm seeing looks in Kent's eye that I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end.
You're bad news media from YouTube.
That's correct. So I cut a hype, and it was really good when it came out well. I got a lot of good, traction and stuff on the internet, and players were retweeting. And shout out to Kelsey Charles. She found my video, and she was just like, "Oh, this is awesome. We got to find a way to get you around." And so she had showed Derek and showed Nick some of my stuff. They reached out. They wanted to see some work. And I put together some stuff for them. I actually put together some show opens for some stuff that was already made. I had like rebranded some content. I'd already had familiarity with how to do the stuff with all the nature of the work I'd already put in other places. And so I just, kind of put together this little package. They flew me down. We had lunch. And we just kind of talked about some of the things and some visions and ideas. They told me at the time they actually didn't have a spot for me there. And so they were like, do you have any other skill sets? And so kind of told them some of the other things I was doing, like a blog site with some friends and some stuff like that. And they were like, oh, well, we have a need for some webmaster work. And so it's like kind of get in the door, kind of find your way. And at the time I was like, all right, well, this is where I wanted to be. I was, getting older in age and stuff, and I wanted to find where I wanted to settle down and stuff like that. And
here you
opportunity presented itself. Everything kind of worked out, and here we are. And so far I haven't regretted it. It's been a blast.
Kent, you kind of had not a similar path to Douglas, but in a way you kind of started off as an intern.
An insane different path.
Yeah.
I actually went to school right out of high school for music and music business, and interned while I was in high school locally around some sports stations covering golf tournaments, football games, things like that, sitting in the truck and taking stats and things like that while I was in high school. And I always did, the sports, the varsity football highlight reel for the team. And I was doing PA announcing for high school. So I was always kind of doing sports, but I was in bands and things like that. So I had kind of two loves. And I was like, which one do I want to pursue? Is it sports or is it music? So right out of high school, I wanted to do music. And so did that, pursued that immediately. Took a record contract right when I got into high school. And it was like the first, deal I could get to go. out and tour and make records and do that whole thing. And then I still had this love for sports, and so.
But wait. Let's stop right there. You are a former teen band pop music star.
Teen boy band.
I mean,
we're teens.
No, he wasn't really a boy band because he didn't do any dancing or any of
they
that.
were a
Wait
real
a
band.
minute.
They were a real band. Yeah, so they were a band.
Yeah.
Play music.
Your light's on, by the way.
Yeah.
I've seen
phone.
Kent. I've looked at some of the videos that his band made,
Yeah.
and he came up with ways to do things behind the keyboard. Like he would kick his heels
So
together.
Kent played keyboards. Tell everybody who you played for.
They're called Forever the Sickest Kids. They're from Dallas. Rock music. We're pretty active probably from 07 to about 2013, 14 on the scene. Yeah. And so that's what I was doing from 07 to 2011.
Okay.
Was years I was active doing that. But Douglas is right. When you play, I played piano, keys, and a little guitar. But when you play in keys, you got to do something.
Got to think outside the box.
So I was doing handstands on the keyboard, and like, I had a guitar at one point. You know, I would do like guitar flips, and like just got to keep it interesting and fun. You know.
Okay.
But so I started.
You ever do that back there when you're producing? Stand up on the producer board and just do it with your toes, take your shoes
You know,
off?
Douglas was like the first idea for this podcast. Shannon was like, pitch this podcast. I was like, hey, what if we got all the producers together to talk about the production elements? And Doug's like, we can plug in your keyboard in here.
Yeah.
You can be the house band.
A little disappointed.
Can't
Paul Schaefer.
So that's where I started doing music, recording records, doing the whole thing, major label, record cycle thing for 5-6 years. And then I got burnt out of that and had a love for sports, wanted to do film too. So I went to film school at TCU, who has a sports broadcasting department. And so it was kind of the two things I wanted to do was get a little more attuned to cinema, things like that, and radio. I did radio at TCU, talk radio, things like that, and produced a lot of their baseball games for Fox Sports Southwest and basketball, and got an internship at TCU with FC Dallas in their marketing department, doing videos, kind of an intern for their web department. In 2012 season, I did that, left that place and saw an internship open up here, an internship with digital media. It was Ed Cahill's intern.
Shout out Ed Cahill.
Shout
That's
out.
right.
What up, Ed? What up?
I would not be here without Ed. I can say 100% certainty of that. But so applied for that. I already done an internship for school. I didn't really need to do another one. So I applied for that, and Ed Cahill called me like 2 days later. This is Ed from the Cowboys. Could you come and talk to us? And I was like, yeah. And then
Let me check my calendar.
let me check my calendar.
Just cleared up.
Yeah. And so I go and talk with Derek, and he asks me, well, can you do audio? I was like, yeah, I did, just recorded, I've got experience with audio. I was like, well, can you do video? He was like, yeah, I can do video. Do you have sports experience? Yes, I do. So it was kind of all these little check marks I had to hit. And he was like, okay, well, I guess I can't say no, Ed. Good luck. and Ed took me under his wing and showed me all this stuff, especially with the website and with getting these things online and the podcast, the whole how this thing worked. He really took me under his wing.
Yeah,
And,
you were his shadow.
I was his shadow.
You were like
Yeah.
at his hip
Right.
all the time. That's all I remember about you at the beginning. Is
He was
Yeah.
so gracious in doing that and bringing me on board. But it was one of those things where on my resume, he saw my band on there, and he was like, I had seen you guys play in Seattle when I lived in Seattle, and
Wow.
called me. So
I didn't
it was
know
like,
that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was like a
That's
weird
legit.
reason that somehow the band led to this in a weird way. But all that to say, over the years, I've done the podcast and then kind of did a couple videos here and there, and have kind of stayed afloat through various means throughout the Cowboys. But it's a very weird road. I understand that, and I get people. I'm sure you guys get them all the time,
all the
messaging
time.
you, LinkedIn. They'll email you out of nowhere. Hey, just wondering what I can do to get in your kind of job or what school I can go to. I'm like, you know what? I wish I could give you an answer, but there's not one. You just gotta
there's definitely no road.
You gotta meet somebody that knows somebody.
That knows
That's
somebody that
100%.
knows somebody.
Just keep working.
What song is that?
Oh, DMX?
Yeah. Ludicrous.
Didn't he just get out of jail?
No, I
DMX
don't
did
know.
just get out of jail.
I
Yeah.
have no
Okay.
idea. I'm not a DMX follower, but I should be, I guess.
But you're right.
Yeah,
we
no,
all
it's all
took weird roads.
We all took
Yeah.
weird roads, and there's not one way to do it.
There's no, hey, you take this class and you go to, and then you get a job in the NFL.
Really, if you want to do it, you've got to put in. We just had a guy named Max who worked for us for 2 months, and he got another offer to go to Memphis to work for the minor league baseball team full time. And those are the types of things you have to do if you want to be in this business. You've got to go do, minor league baseball for a couple of years. A lot of, Lindsey Cash was in Abilene, Texas for a couple of years. There's kind of like I interned for a few years.
Yeah.
William has done
Multiple
countless
jobs,
jobs
yeah.
for free. You're talking about not even getting paid a lot of the times. You just kind of have to show that you
have to be-
want to do it.
you have to be
and then
dedicated.
you'll get paid money.
Yeah, it takes a certain level of dedication.
Yeah.
Now, don't let Kent get you excited because sports does not pay a lot
I'm
of
not
money.
talking money.
They pay you money, but not.
It's technically money.
You will never be wealthy working
No.
in
The
sports.
guys that are wealthy are in the locker room.
Yep.
own the
That's right.
squad.
And up on the 4th floor.
Yes.
And that's about it.
Yes.
And the turnover is slow.
Very
Like,
slow.
glacial.
Especially here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Ken,
yeah.
Ken, I'm gonna
Yeah.
use you as, I don't know if you know this, but I use you as a kind of a
Reference?
like a success story. So
Oh, good. I hope you're going to say as an example of what not to do.
what not to do. Yeah. So Ed Cahill now is the head of digital for Orlando Soccer Club. So he left and took that role. And as he was leaving, he kept telling Derek, "Hey, this guy's going to be really good. He's already better than me. He's going to be great." And we're we know Ed's on the
Very
way out.
skeptical from what they do.
Yeah. So
There's no way we don't see what you're seeing, but okay.
right, Ed's on the way out, so we're interviewing for Ed's position, and Kent's just kind of around and just doing intern things, kind of learning Ed's stuff. Well, we go to lunch one day and we're talking about the history of the uniform, and in Valley Ranch there were all these cabinets that had like the evolution of the uniform. We're talking about it, and like a day later, Kent sends, I think, Nick or Derek, or Nick and Derek, he sends them this video, and it's this, I think, 2-3 minute video. And the funny part was Kent puts himself on camera and he's talking, and he like has a microphone, and he narrates the whole video, and like we're looking at it and kind of chuckling, and like he put himself on camera, and that's what we kept getting caught up on. And then we start watching this video, and we're like, you know what? Wait a minute. The video's, you cut Ken out.
It's actually good.
Cut Ken's face out of it, and it's actually a pretty good
you end up
video.
here.
Says this guy.
Were you modeling the jerseys?
No.
No, he actually had a throwback Dallas Cowboys sweatshirt.
It was
on.
literally
Okay.
like one of those things where it would have been. I was only in it for like 2 seconds at the beginning because it would have been weird if it just opened with me like doing a voiceover.
Oh, the way I remember it, you were in there for like a solid minute and a half.
No, trust me, it was like
That's definitely how the story's
first.
told.
It was like,
Can we
"Hi,
get
I'm
this
Kent
video
Garrison, and
show
here
on the show? That's
it's like
the video.
I'm Kent Garrison, and here's the history of the uniform." Like that was it, and then it cuts to all B-roll and like narration at that point.
So the moral of
Yeah.
the story is,
I do remember that.
we were like, we were kind of making fun that Kent, like this intern, went out and put himself on camera whenever hardly anybody at the time. Now
I was
all
told
the
promptly, "Don't ever put yourself on camera again."
all the
We don't like.
well, all of our staff now are on camera at some point. It's the evolution of this job. Our jobs have changed, but at the time it was like, oh my God, he put himself on camera. And then we started looking at the video, and we're like, this is actually pretty good if you take that out. So what it showed is you've never heard this?
I've never heard that. If we took him out of it,
No, I don't.
I don't know if you'd heard the story. I've heard it.
I embellished. I probably embellished a little bit. I'm probably
No,
dramatizing this. Let me get through this. Hang on.
Okay.
This is a good thing. So what I always tell everybody is, hey, Kent heard something. He heard us discuss something, and he went and did something. He didn't sit back. He didn't go ask for permission. He went and did it and said, hey, I went and did this. And it wound up being really good, and it was like showed initiative. It showed like he didn't have to ask permission to go do something. He just heard something, put something together, and went and did it. And I was like, go do that. Go be Kent. And look where he's at now. He finished this fight video series 2 years ago. He went and shot a documentary. He didn't go to all these classes. He taught himself how to do all this stuff.
I did.
So
I was self-taught.
Yeah.
That is one thing too. There's not a lot of technical training for what we do because there's so many different levels to running a live TV show versus editing a video that's for later. There's so many different things There's not one degree you can get for all of it. So yeah, you got to be self-taught, self-motivated. You got to come in here. You got to grind for, like I said, for if a minor league baseball team says you can come run our scoreboard this year, but you really want to break into sports, go do it.
Yep.
Do it for free. Shake somebody's hand. Go meet the local beat writers in your scene.
Yep.
Get on Twitter. Start following and messaging and interacting with these people. You can really do it. I was in a band on a tour bus, literally laying there saying, I can't believe I never have to A, go to school again, or B, work again in my life. Like, I was at that point where I could have just ridden that wave, you know? Mm-hmm. But then I was like, no, I kind of want to see if I can do it. You know, it's one of those, can you see if you can do it? And here I am, because I literally worked for free for a year. So if you're able to do that, like sleep on a relative's couch.
The grind is real,
I did that.
man.
The grind is real. You got to do what you can. And you can be here if you have the initiative and the skills required. And you.
All right, I got to cut you off because we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I want to get one more question in before we go. The moral of the story is do like Ken and just go do something. Don't wait on somebody to bring you something.
Sure.
Real quick, we've got a couple of minutes before we got to start another podcast.
I got to go behind the wall.
What do you guys think about the Kellen Moore hiring?
I'm excited.
We only have 3 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, we got about seconds.
We have about 45 seconds apiece.
I'm excited to see something new. I mean, he's new. He's never done it before. He's young. And I think the youth movement has been working so far. I thought Mark was successful. I like Rashard a lot, what he's been doing for the defense. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm willing to give him a fair chance, unlike some people out there are. I think
a lot of people.
I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged to say this. I mean, I've spent time and talked to him, but I'm excited.
Yeah, it's so far beyond what I could know. You know, I don't know how things go behind the scenes back there, but I trust it because, I mean, when they hired Jason Garrett, you know, Mike Tomlin had just been a very young, successful head coach, but there weren't a bunch of them. I mean, Jason Garrett was one of those guys who was a pretty young guy to be a head coach. And so for them to give a chance to Kellen Moore, they see something. I just trust that they know what they're doing.
Trust the process. Huh?
Yeah. No, I was listening to the show earlier, and, you know, Hellman was talking about, or maybe it was a tweet, it might have been Rob, that, you know, Dak is one of the biggest advocates for Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
You know, and but I think there can't just be one advocate. There got to be a lot of people who have seen something
right
to take a guy with his experience that seems limited and just give it to him.
Yeah. Everyone over there believes.
So I trust that.
Okay.
So
Kent, real quick.
Yeah. Let's see, man. Let's go. You know, that's kind of my attitude. Head coach is the same. Personnel is pretty much going to be the same. You never know. This guy could be the answer. And if he's not the answer, he won't be here next year. So we'll find out real fast if it's not going to work. You know, a lot of people, you know, Sean McVay had experience as an OC before he got the head coaching. But when they made that hire, they're like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
What has he done? You know, so young, whatever. Now look at him. They're playing the Super Bowl in 4 days. So I don't know if he's the answer, but we'll find out, I guess. But I'm not against the hire. I'm not against it, but not.
Let's wait and see.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's all you can really do at this point.
Yep. Beam, you want to jump in on that one before we get out of here?
There's one real quick. A lot of people don't talk about this, but there's a guy by the name of Dow Loggins. Okay, and he's actually the offensive coordinator right now at the New York Jets. He worked here for the Cowboys probably about a good about 8 years ago. Okay, the guy's about 4 foot, maybe 5'3", not really a big guy. We used to call him Spreadsheet because that's all I used to do is spreadsheets for the scouting department. He was a college quarterback.
How'd you like to have that name, Spreadsheet?
We call him Spreadsheet. It's all he did was Spreadsheet. We call it Spreadsheet. But anyways, so this is a guy who didn't really want to be in the scouting department. He wanted to be a coach someday. And to be honest with you, he's followed around Gase around to all his coaching jobs, and at one point, Chicago, he was the OC. He was a quarterback coach, became the OC at Chicago, and Gase wanted to take him to be his OC, but John Fox is like, no, this guy's good. I want to keep this guy, and he's been the offensive coordinator for like 3 different teams now, and he's about to be the one for the New York Jets. So I mean, and you couldn't pick him out of a grocery store. To be honest with you, he's not like this. You know, he's a little kind of guy, and I mean, he has the he has what it takes to be like a offensive coordinator league, and that's what Kellen Moore could be.
Could be. And, Tony Romo wasn't Tony Romo till he got a chance to do it. Yeah. So you never know. So I'm with you. Let's see what happens, and maybe some of the fans that don't like this move are right. Hopefully they're wrong, and you didn't know you had Dak until
exactly
3 people in front of him got hurt.
Give him a fair chance.
Let's give him a shot. Let's see what happens. So, well, guys, this has been fun. It was so much fun. We didn't even take a break, and we still went over. So
that was good.
Yeah,
good.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you for staying.
Thank you, Shannon,
and fighting through your thread.
Anything for you guys. Anything for you guys. Hand me that Lysol can on the way out, because I have to move to that side of the table.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You'll move.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Kent. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Yep. Douglas, thank you. Thank you, William.
Right.
Chris Bean behind the wall. Thanks for doing an impromptu producing job for us. Hell of a job, by the way, Beam.
Yes, thank you. Good job.
I would have been interested to see how you took us in and out of commercial breaks, but
also
I can do it.
he still punched the big button.
And Kent
punched the button.
Still punched the button. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
Great intro, great music, great times here on The Producers. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Well, this has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?